Welcome back to the Comic Vault. Today, our featured book is the second volume of the Ninja Turtles Ultimate Collection, going back to the Mirage Turtle stuff, which we started back in our big Ninja Turtles theme show, which is one of the most fun things we did last year. I really enjoyed that show. Before we do this, though, why don't we go ahead and talk about our favorite series of things that came out last year for comics, because we're doing that, again, on the Omnibus this week with every major genre of thing, a medium, I should say. And we can, I don't know how many you have, because I know you didn't have a pull list last year.
No.
So I don't know how much stuff you actually got a chance to look at.
So I can talk about the series that I read a bit of.
Yeah, sure. This time, as opposed to what we did with movies, why don't you go ahead and just run through yours, and I'll run through mine, because I don't really have mine in any particular order.
Sure.
For this one. So 2 or 3 or however many you have. And,
I've got 3.
I've got like 5. So.
I adored Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
I think an arc back, as the Purple Man arc is running now. I might not have finished the Marie Hill, but I read most of the Marie Hill.
I got through that, but I didn't start on the one after that.
No, I love Jessica Jones. I think it's the best thing Bendis has done in years.
Really? Wow, that's high praise.
It felt like it. Aside from the fact that there was no swearing and that was weird, it really felt like a continuation of Alias. I really liked it. I really, really liked Jessica Jones, and I can't wait to read the rest of it.
I just hope it gets a real ending.
Yeah, well, Bendis has talked about that.
Has he?
He talked about that in the thing where, like, he kind of realized that, like, doing, like, the big legacy storyline for all of his books, he was like, this could kind of be the ending for all of these different books. Like, the whole point was, like, bring to the fore what your book's about. And he's like, once I've done that, like, this is what all this book is all about. Okay, well, now I'm going to go do something else. Like, it sounds like he might have left some of these books anyways.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I adore Jessica Jones. The other series that I read that I kind of liked was Defenders. Yeah. I read about 4 or 5 issues of that. I like that book quite a bit. I'm bummed that Bendis is leaving, because it felt like he finally got the book that he was, like, made for.
It felt like a culmination of
he
some
got
things.
to do street-level Avengers, which is what he kind of tried to do with Avengers in places. Like, it really felt like a book made for him, and it's unfortunate that he's not going to
And that being the TV show team, weirdly, was exactly the team he would probably put together. Like, it's really weird.
And then Dark Knight Metal. Dark Knight Metal was I read all of the issues that came out that year. I have not read 4 or 5 yet, but I read all the issues that did in fact come out in 2017, and I still have to read the tie-ins, but the actual series itself was really good.
That's on my list too, along with the tie-ins, because I kind of like them as well or better.
A lot of people have told me they like the tie-ins way better. They're like that's good, but the tie-ins are awesome.
That sticks with me more than 4 and 5 are out. I'm gonna have to go back and reread 1, 2, and 3 before, just because it's been so late and it's taken forever.
If the highest compliment I can give as someone that doesn't care about the multiverse and is really done with the multiverse at this point, it made me excited about the multiverse. What if the multiverse was part of a multiverse of multiverses? That's awesome!
And, yes, we're getting, bigger and bigger, and sometimes it feels like the only way to make something fresh again is to just get even bigger with it, and that often doesn't work. But the reason this does is because it's bombastic about it, and it plays everything straight.
Yeah. It's just
so wild, and metal is the only way to describe it. Like, it's metal, and that's so cool.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted, when I saw the title, and I saw that first image of, Batman with, an axe, I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be metal. And it is. It
kind of feels like what you thought you would get from Snyder Batman after reading his horror work.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or more of that anyway.
The first half of Core of the Owls is what I thought he would do.
No, that's a good point. But he got away from that. He's kind of back.
It's what I thought I was gonna get with Thor Ragnarok. That's. It's metal.
He's playing. Yeah, and he's playing with all of the tools in the DC toy box. In again a really fresh way, and making me excited and surprised to see things that pop up that I haven't seen in a long time.
And you're right that part of what's great about it is that it is this over the top, super fun series that plays it 100% straight and isn't constantly winking at you and going, "Isn't this insane?" No, it just is insane. Yeah. No, it's really good. It's the best event I've read in forever.
Tom King's Batman is, of course, amazing.
Yes, yes.
That's on
I
my
read the
list.
first issue of War Jokes and Riddles, so I felt that would be inappropriate for me to put on because I didn't think I'd read enough this year.
I just finished War Jokes and Riddles finally, and the ending of that is pretty darn brilliant.
Wow.
It's wonderful. And this is not from last year, but it's all connected, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk a little bit about Tom King's Batman later. I have an issue from that if I did a top 10 single issues from this year, which I would like to go back and start doing those again. I didn't do it last year because I was so behind on stuff, and there's a lot I didn't read. But I immediately had an issue that would have to go in that from his run for this year, and it made me tear up really hard.
Wow.
It's
Was that from War Jokes and Riddles?
No, it's right after it.
Okay.
Man, when he puts Batman and Superman together, I wish Tom King could do a World's Finest book. Oh boy, does he get that relationship! He makes it fascinating, and he makes it really interesting to put them together. And it's a really cool. I guess I'm reviewing it now. It's a really cool kind of academic exercise, but at the same time, it's really emotional, and I just love those guys together. And I don't know, it's I teared up.
That's kind of how I felt about the last issue before War Jokes and Riddles. The Batman Catwoman one.
I loved Ninja Turtles 75 and War of Krang. I talked about that, and but the best Ninja Turtles thing last year was that Metalhead story that I reviewed. The real classic what makes a man kind of thing with putting Donatello's. Which is funny because they're turtles, but putting Donatello's consciousness in Metalhead, and then making it very clear very quickly that he's going his own way and he's not that person, and it's really scary because he's basically a man, but a turtle, but a man trapped in a robot where he's never gonna have the kind of life he wishes he could have. Go-Go Power Rangers has been some surprisingly really good smart teen drama, and I wouldn't think that going back to the beginning of that show, of that status quo, would be as engaging or more engaging than the main series. I can't believe how much I loved that, and more is art in that. He just tears it up. Batman Shadow.
Oh, I forgot about Batman Shadow. Yes, of course. I did read that.
Was amazing. Obviously, I've had nothing but nice things for the most part to say about Silver Surfer, which ended really well, even though I just had such a bittersweet feeling about the ending of that. And I need to read the rest of Batman 66 Meets Wonder Woman, but I read the two issues in the middle where they basically redo Dark Knight Returns in 66 and have that world grow up a little bit, but get a little bit more cynical. And it was... I love that they could make me feel sad about that. That was great. I want to mention a couple of bad things from last year, if I may.
Sure.
Secret Empire I couldn't finish. I never finished it. I own all of it. Never finished it. It was just awful.
You were the most optimistic about that book of anyone I knew. You were 2 issues in. You're like, no, it's pretty good. Let's see where it goes.
Let's see where it goes. Yep. Nope. I reviewed this. I was really disappointed with Biff to the Future, which I was kind of an alternate reality thing that showed us how Biff Tannen in Back to the Future, in the alternate timeline of Back to the Future 2, gets to where he gets, and it's this really rough and tumble, violent Back to the Future thing, and it's great all the way up to the last couple issues, and then spoiler alert, at the end, it's this alternate timeline where they just fix everything, and it's full with time travel, and it's fine, and it was really disappointing. And then also last year, and there's no reason for us to say anything else beyond the title, was Clone Conspiracy, which was insane.
Yeah, put Clone Conspiracy on my list of worst that I read, because I read quite a bit of that with you.
Yeah, and it was just dreadful. And I know how angry you were about what they did with Ben Reilly.
Oh,
yeah.
It's not okay. It's not okay. Also on my list of worst comics from last year, Doomsday Clock, for existing.
Let's go ahead and talk about this, shall we? So, a lot of different stories in this. This is mostly a bunch of...
Pretty much all one-and-dones.
Except for the three-parter at the end, which also still reads like one-and-dones, but they're all interconnected. And matter. But it's not like the like the alien arc from the first book, where that is an ongoing story that keeps going. By the way, I don't know why they're on the front.
And Fugitive. That cover is alive.
Yeah, it's funny because it wraps around and then everything on the back is actually in the book. But I don't know why we have stuff from the first book on the front of this, and then all the stuff from inside the book on the back. But anyway,
unless the covers line up and make a picture where the turtles just keep showing up, maybe, but I don't think so.
That would be really weird, though. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, there's no Triceratons in this book anyway. So do you want to like really quickly just try to like kind of blow through this in order?
Sure.
Because otherwise we're probably going to skip stories, and part of the point of doing this is to remind people what's in these or tell them briefly about things if they never get a chance to read this stuff.
Sure. So we open with the Michelangelo one-shot.
Yep.
Which I read...
2 one-shots set at Christmas.
Yeah, so I got these for Christmas, and I started reading this. You were out of town, so the day after Christmas I started reading this, and it was a Christmas story, and I was like, oh, that's weird, like it was just Christmas.
Yeah.
Interesting thing about the Michelangelo one-shot,
yeah.
first issue I ever read of Ninja Turtles was this Michelangelo one-shot. And like when I started reading it, like I had like this weird...
Oh, really? That's really cool.
I had this weird like flashback thing. I think I talked about in the first one, I thought Eastman and Laird's Ninja Turtles was... like, I thought it was the spin-off. Like, it is Eastman and Laird's version of the Ninja Turtles,
really
whoever
funny.
those guys are. And this book is part of why I thought that, because, like, the book takes place entirely, like... Well, it doesn't look like a cartoon. It's all like, the real world and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But also, Michelangelo's just walking around just in, like, snow clothes. And, like, for some reason as a kid, like, that was really weird to me. It's like... Because in the cartoon, they wear their costumes, their masks, all of the time. In the comics, they kind of only wear it when they go out and about. Like, a lot of times they don't have it. So that was just a really weird... I hadn't remembered that until I went and read this. I was like, oh, this was my exposure to these comics. It's fun.
It's a really cute kind of meaning of Christmas sort of story, right?
Yeah.
It's about making sure the kids get their presents on time and that the bad guys can't steal a shipment of
I think the car chase in
gifts
this is better than the car chase in the previous volume.
I tend to agree with that, yeah.
I'm also impressed by the snow.
Yeah, no, it looks really good. No, the art in that's...
You're never lost by what's happening, even though, like, there's so much snow on that page, like...
That's really cool. And they're using the black and white to their advantage, because I don't think that book is good color.
Yes. And they have versions of these same books out with color. It's called The Works.
Yeah.
I'm kind of interested to know what this issue looks like in that.
Yeah, that full-page spread specifically. We should probably mention, by the way, just to give people context, especially if they missed the last book, we are circa, like, 1986 right now. This is, I think, or maybe that issue is even 85, but I think we're into 86. So this is just before they've made the toy deal, and they're going to start making a TV show and all of that, but the comics are selling really well, and they're selling better every issue.
And what's interesting is when we get to the end of this volume, that is as many comics as they had published when they went into production on the first film.
Yes.
Which explains why everything in the first film comes from these first 2 volumes.
Yeah, and I'm getting ahead of myself when I say this, but after finishing this book, it made me have more respect for that movie.
Yeah, because it's all here.
Yeah.
Except for the ending, which they invented, but what were they going to do?
Yeah, and like, turtles are changed around and stuff, but it doesn't feel like a watered down version. Like, it's an adaptation of that stuff. And I mean, like, they use certain scenes in different contexts and things, but it doesn't feel compromised. It's just they told a somewhat different story.
Well, because these are all disparate. None of these are a film.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Michelangelo story is fun. What comes after the Michelangelo story?
Right after that,
is it the Donnie story?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's
no,
the,
it's the time.
It's Renee, and then it's Kirby right after Renee.
Yes,
that's right.
It's Renee and Cerberus.
So that's just them having all kinds of wacky time travel fun. Renee is weird because that is kind of pitched as from the beginning as like a big deal, like Ninja Turtles Cerebus crossover. But it feels like a crossover of 3 worlds, one of which just wasn't pre-established. Like, Renee feels like also her own thing, like she had her own comic or something, right?
Yeah. She's
with
kind
Lord
of
Simultaneous.
I would not have read that comic. She's kind of ditzy.
I wouldn't have read that comic, but that world doesn't feel like it fits with Ninja Turtles.
No. Well, I mean. Yeah, well, I was going to say, well, maybe we build on that stuff, but I know what happens for the rest of Mirage, and we kind of don't.
Renee is one of those characters that, first of all, I didn't realize appeared this early. I had that
You didn't even know
toy.
she came from this, right?
And when I met her in the IDW comics, I didn't know that she was a previous invention for this stuff.
And she's in the '03 cartoon. I'm almost positive. I know Lord Simultaneous is.
What did you think of that issue? It's kind of just a big goofy romp. I think it's too long.
I agree. I think kind of when we get to the siege part of it, I get a little bored.
Yeah.
I love Lord Simultaneous.
Me
I love
too.
I love the payoff gag.
With the crystal
watch?
with the
Oh,
digital watch.
That's really
great.
funny.
It is.
I don't think Cerberus needed to be here. Is maybe my biggest
That felt a
complaint.
little self-indulgent, where they just really wanted to get to work with him because he was such an inspiration on them.
It is really cool when they talk about how they did the art and how like he kind of drew.
He came in and just drew his own character.
Yeah.
And wrote his own dialogue.
Yep, and just in the way that they pass pages back and forth, they just added a third person to it. I thought that was really cool.
We should mention these are all annotated like that first book that we talked about.
Yes, and Laird talks a lot more in this.
He does, yeah.
Which was really appreciated.
And so in case you're wondering where we're getting our information from, it's directly from this book. You can read all about that stuff.
So somewhere in here... Okay, so there's an inconsistency, and I have noticed this since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, or at least a teenager. Because I've talked before, I had the big, thick book that now I gave to Jason that has all the Ninja Turtles issues up to the end of this book. So it collects Volume 1 and 2 of this. It's all of that.
Yeah.
When Renee shows up, one of the turtles says that, like, she's a total babe.
Yeah.
And then later, April O'Neil's going to get a haircut, and she's going to be like, does it look good? And the turtle's going to be like, I guess for a human.
Oh, that's weird. That's really inconsistent.
Yeah, that's super inconsistent.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, nice catch, man.
But yeah, it's a fun issue. I'm maybe the weakest of the trade.
I think so too, because there's not really any development for anybody, and it's kind of that problem you get with a lot of TV shows, circa that period, where you bring in a guest star and the character arc is for the guest star.
Yes.
It's her story. The turtles are just kind of there, and Cerberus is really not about him, but he's kind of fun as this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like he has a fun running commentary about the things that make the turtles like less competent than they could be, and that's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He doesn't need to be there for the sake of the story, but I enjoyed his dialogue.
Yeah.
He's intrusive, and I enjoyed the ways in which he was intrusive. The point of looking at that is the art.
Yes. Well, and I'll say for both of these volumes, none of these are bad. There was not a bad issue here.
Anywhere in them.
That is the weakest of this collection. It is not bad. It's still a really enjoyable read.
Yeah. No, that's a testament to, and I don't think it's. I would say some of the Triceraton stuff is probably weaker than that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Although I started loving that toward the end,
Yeah,
so I don't know. We thought that sagged in the middle, but then you get all that Kirby-looking stuff toward the end of it, and
The weird thing about all of this is...
never mind. Forget what I just said, dude.
When I put myself in the time and place of it coming out...
Yeah.
Is that you had a book that for kind of like 5 issues straight was kind of an ongoing story.
Yeah.
Because
that took me out.
The Triceraton stuff is a 3-issue story, but the issues before it were leading to it. This is a bunch of one-shots.
You get no sense of place and time.
No, they are keeping track of stuff, and that's good.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's not that you get no sense, but it doesn't matter enough for the stories that are being told.
I feel
it's
like
kind of meandering all over the place.
I feel like I like this stuff, because I have it all together. I feel like I would maybe feel a little gypped if I was reading this, because it's not even month to month. It's like
for a while it took
twice
every
a
3
year,
or
maybe.
4 months.
Yeah.
And something we should mention that you and I talked about the other day is that it's even worse if you don't realize the micro-series are really important to the sequence.
Yeah.
Because the Leonardo micro-series, again, getting ahead of myself, kicks off the 3-part story we'll talk about at the end of the book. And you can't tell me there weren't a lot of people that were completely lost.
And if you didn't read the Raphael one, Casey Jones comes out of nowhere and you have no idea who he is.
That's a good point.
No, and the Leonardo one is the weirdest one in that it literally leads into the next issue. And
it should have been part of the sequence. Like I get that it's a perfect like encapsulation of what that character is, and who what the spirit of that character, like who he is. But I just don't think it makes a lot of sense to start there and then go and then have a cliffhanger that leads into the main series. That's a really weird choice. And also, with all the other micro-series, with the exception of the fact that we introduced Casey Jones in one, they're all just fun throwaway stories that are there to so that you can get to know one of the main characters in like a day in the life kind of story. Leonardo also does feel a little day in the life. Like you can like you just imagine all he does is go out and fight ninjas.
So the next one is the Donnie one.
Yeah.
Which is adapted basically straight for the 03 series.
For the 03 series. It's like I've never read this. I felt like I'd read this. I've seen that episode a couple times.
Yeah. It's
Why don't you talk about that a little bit for people that don't know what it is?
Donnie needs to fix the water heater. And he goes downstairs and there's a guy that sublets the basement, and his name is Kirby, and he's modeled after Jack Kirby, and they got the right, or not the rights, they got permission from the Kirby estate to do that.
And in fact, they wanted to use it to raise money
for his legal fees or something.
I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. And they declined that, but gave them permission to use his likeness and to make a tribute story about him.
And so we find out that he has this rock. I forget this. Do they explain how he got the rock?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So he gets this rock and he ties it to a pencil. Whenever he draws, comes to life. And everything disappears after like a minute, except for this portal he drew, which stays there. And they go through the portal.
Really lucky that he thought to draw that portal.
Yeah. Or unlucky. Given how it all turns out.
No, it was lucky, though, because all they had to do was never go in it. But if he hadn't drawn that, then I don't know if those things would have ever disappeared.
That's true.
Because they wouldn't have anywhere to go to.
That's true. That's probably why he drew it in the first place.
The thing is, no, I don't think so. Because here's what's weird. He talks about it like it's faded or something. Because he's like, I drew this thing, I don't know what it does. It's just this doorway. It's just the thing I drew. It had no purpose. What's weird, and there's some inconsistencies in how the art, science works, just what the rules are. But like, if I'm remembering this right, I think he says and I remember this from the cartoon too, that he draws the door. He doesn't know what it is, just this weird funky thing he drew. But then when they're in there and he starts drawing stuff, when they're in the other dimension, everything he draws is with purpose, and he knows exactly what it does, and it works the way he meant it to.
Yeah. And there's also a point where he has to draw a scale reference, but he never does that at any other point. And we both have the issue with he draws the thing for Donnie, and he draws Donnie.
But Donnie doesn't come after. He
doesn't make a second Donnie.
Yes, the rules seem different.
But so they go through this portal, and it's a world just full of Jack Kirby-esque creations, which for a couple of guys basically live in their basement that just started drawing.
Get real close.
Yeah, it's not Kirby, but it's real in the ballpark.
Yeah.
And if you've been reading through this book and all the annotations and everything, they mentioned Kirby, or Eastman mentions Kirby like once an issue.
Yeah.
Where like what an inspiration he is, and how their layouts was inspired by Jack Kirby and all of that. So this was really nice for people that had Kirby on the brain and felt like he was such an influence to do an issue that was a tribute to, one of the masters of the comic book art form. It's a really fun story.
It's real heartfelt.
Yeah.
For that, and then really bittersweet at the end. Like that, it's a downer ending. It's not just a throwaway fun, tribute thing, and then you get to the end, and Kirby gets trapped there, which I think is maybe supposed to be a little bit of a metaphor for like the real Jack Kirby's life.
That's possible. Yeah. He does draw with a tail, and I recommend no one ever draw the Ninja Turtles with a tail.
I feel that way too. Oh, you know what? Okay, so this was my read on it. They wanted to make. You're right. It was for legal fees because he was trying to get thousands of pieces of his own artwork back.
Yes.
You remember? That's what it was. And I thought maybe the idea there, if I'm not reading too far into it, was that the metaphor is this: the Kirby that they create in this gets trapped where nobody can get to him. Just like Jack Kirby's actual artwork is trapped where Jack Kirby can't get to it.
Well, but you could also read it as he draws it that's taken away from him.
Yeah, exactly.
And it goes to his place, and so it's supposed to be him getting all of that stuff. Even though he's trapped away from the real world, he did get all of it.
That's true, where it's bittersweet because he actually gets that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's also a possible read.
Sure.
Then we have the pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing.
Yeah.
Which is issue 9, and okay, so
You know what they should have called that? They should have called that the Splinter Micro Series.
Yes.
No, they should have, because that shouldn't be in the sequence. The Leonardo one isn't going to be. I really don't like that. This one's weird because it took me forever to realize that they were actually... Like, I almost needed them to tell me that the Turtles were supposed to be younger in that, and that it took place in
So
the
I
past.
told you that I'd always known, and I didn't know how I always knew. I just always known.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah. It's called pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I didn't even notice that.
Yep. So when I was reading...
Okay, so that's fine. They gave it to us up front. I'm just dumb and didn't notice it.
But neither did I. When I was reading it through this time, I was like, how did I know that they were younger in this?
Yeah.
Oh, it's because it's right there. This is also the first issue that is not drawn by them.
Right.
It's drawn by Michael Dooney, who does a really good job, I think, at mimicking their style. I've always really liked this issue.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do this in the 03 series, but I hope they did, because I think this is a really good one and done.
Well, I like that we get more of a sense of what, like, Splinter's mystical abilities are. Like, it's kind of nice. I almost wish we got it earlier.
Next Mutation was looking at this issue, right?
Yes, I had that very same thought. Yeah, and it made me wonder if the and I don't know why he's Chinese in that, but it made me wonder if the elderly Chinese guy in that was kind of patterned off of this guy.
Yeah.
But this is about Splinter helping out this like elderly sensei with his son who's being kind of pushed in the wrong direction, and
no, it's his grandson.
Oh, that's what it is.
Because he's basically passing on his katra.
Yeah, exactly.
And he can't give it to his son because his son is a corrupt, evil businessman who runs a league of like evil ninjas that is not the Foot.
And his grandson is torn between his grandfather's like honorable ways and his father's like evil business ways.
I think part of what makes this issue really work, especially where it's placed,
And they switch brains.
is it's
They
been
switch bodies.
a while since we've done any of the Japanese-inspired kind of... Like, I think it's really refreshing when you're reading these in sequence to be like, oh, and we're doing some of the Japanese morality,
That's true, yeah.
sense of honor kind of a thing. It weirdly doing ninja things feels like a change of pace for this book.
I also, yeah, that's interesting. It's like by getting less down to earth, it feels more down to earth. I like that when the ancient sensei gets in Splinter's body, the turtles have no idea.
Yeah,
because they're so in sync. Like they believe in the same thing.
And there's also a really cool ticking clock where, like,
yeah,
if this doesn't go well, Splinter could die in that guy's body.
Yeah, and he tells them that up front, and he says the thing that Splinter says to the Turtles in the first issue, this is something I should never ask anyone to do.
Yeah.
But, like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah.
And so, like, he knows he's going to die, and he's not trying to save himself, he just wants to save his grandson.
Yeah, I've always really liked this issue. I can't exactly explain why, but I've always really liked it.
I really empathized with the plight there, like...
Yeah, it's a really well-written issue. Also... Like,
it feels like a Splinter, not a character study, but like it really defines him, and that's why the like preteen Turtles thing is a little bit weird. Like, I feel like that story could have been told in present day.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I don't know how much like they really mature and grow from this. Maybe that's the idea.
Well, maybe the idea is. The first issue is them, like, after that point, Splinter's not really their master. He's just their dad. So we need to put them in a place where Splinter is once again their master, and he can command them?
Yeah, that's true, sure.
Maybe that's the... And it just seems like they wanted to do... it. The way it reads in the back is that they wanted to do a pre-Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story, and then they came up with a story with them when they were younger. Not necessarily that necessitated that, they just wanted to do it.
Yeah, sure.
Also,
But you're right. That's a really good excuse to put Splinter in the driver's seat.
Yeah. And I like it when we just do different things sometimes. And so, like, when I was younger, I always thought it was cool that, like, they had the full headbands. They all have different weapons. Some of them I'm not sure exactly track, but... This
is an issue I wasn't aware of, but it's weird how after I read it, it felt really informative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, just for what the like ninja side of that world is supposed to feel like.
This might be a bit of a stretch. Do you think this is maybe an influence on Danny and his dad? Or at least made them think to do that?
I guess that's possible.
I mean, that's a stretch.
Probably
but...
not. That's a little bit of a stretch, but... it makes me appreciate... I had this thought while I was reading it. It made me appreciate the Splinter mind meld with the fire more. Because I always thought that came out of nowhere, and I was like, why is he able to do all this mystical stuff? And I'm not saying that it's better just because the comics did it. That probably shouldn't have just come out of nowhere like it does in that movie. But I also wasn't aware of the fact that Splinter's abilities went that far. I didn't know there was any mystical anything to it.
And it might be part of the inspiration for the reincarnation in the IDW comics.
Yeah. That's a great point. I bet it is.
Yeah. Also, there's this really cool piece of art that apparently he was
going to throw away.
Yeah.
Eastman was going to throw away.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And then we get to Leonardo, which I think is the like quintessential Ninja Turtles. This is Ninja Turtles in a single like microcosm. This is Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
It is heartfelt and funny, but also it structures itself as the majority of the page is a silent Leonardo story where he's fighting the Foot Clan, and then across the bottom is the rest of the Turtles home with April setting up a Christmas tree. Maybe the second Christmas issue.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Because a whole year has passed already. Because they've only put out like 3 issues.
And they move in real time.
Yep.
It's just killer. Like, this is the best fight they've done thus far.
It reads like a classic samurai movie.
Yeah. Samurai Jack does a lot of stuff like this, where you just do the silent, fight and battle and all that.
It's funny, this is going to sound weird to say, that issue did not read super fast. I found myself slowing myself down.
I also had that, because I wanted to take in the artwork and follow what was happening fight scene-wise.
Yeah, you wanted that to play out in your mind rather than skim it.
And it's also the... Okay, I think the lower pages are drawn by someone else.
Yes. That was the sense I got. I don't remember either of them coming out and confirming that, but it reads like that.
But
that's what it looks like.
It lists Dooney, who drew the previous issue, and Lawson, who was later going to be like their go-to guy.
Yeah, but the thing to keep in mind is that at that point, like, all 4 or 5 of them had their hands in it, and it's hard to know like who was penciling and who was inking and et cetera, et cetera. But one of those guys must have been drawing those bottom panels
because they're not. Color's the wrong. What is they're not grayscaled like those ones. These are black and white comics. These are comics like in black and white. Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well,
these are using shadows and shading. This is just pictures drawn on white.
This might be going too far. I think there's maybe an intentional contrast here where we're trying to make this look like Frank Miller Ronin, and this look like comedic comic strips.
No, I agree. I totally think that's what we're doing. I absolutely think that's what we're doing. It's a great issue. For those that don't know, the Raphael fight that happens in the movie happens to Leonardo in the comic.
Yep.
And it's a long fight.
What happens after that with Raphael in the movie is going to track in the comic too. So when Leonardo gets injured in this, he's going to be injured all the way up to Northampton.
Yeah.
Just like Raphael is.
Yeah.
Except I don't remember if he's like unconscious for a long time or if he's just like really badly damaged. But like, in the movie, it takes them a while to know if Raphael is even going to come out of it.
He's fine by the next issue.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to talk about the... Oh, no, that's the next issue. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there was... So, in the Michelangelo one-shot, we introduced a cat that just sticks around for the rest of the book.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Also, after they mention in the afterwards, Chet... Did you start noticing Chet everywhere?
Yeah.
For some reason, they thought the name Chet was really funny.
It was really funny.
And so, once you notice that...
is Chet's toys, and then they just don't stop... In I guess, the Michelangelo one-shot. And then they just don't stop using it.
Well, that's the first time he brings it up, but I want to go back to the first book, because he made it sound like it might be there earlier than that, too.
Oh, okay.
They just thought Chet was really funny. Just Chet is everywhere.
Why. one of the Mega Block sets that I have from this is Chet's toys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then it ends with not falling through the roof, but being thrown through the window.
Yeah.
Into the house. And it just says he's back, the Shredder.
A la the comedian, only the other direction. Yeah, and he says the Shredder's back.
Yep.
And in the annotations, they make a big deal out of how they never intended on bringing the Shredder back, but then they thought they had a really good story for it. So.
Well, what I really like is that Kevin Eastman talked about how, like, when they made the first issue, they're like, yeah, we're not gonna be like all those other comics. We're gonna kill a villain, keep him dead. And he's like, we never thought we were gonna make more than one issue. It was really easy to say those kinds of things.
Yeah. The thing is, how do you keep using the Foot Clan and not have the leader?
I think you could have made a new leader.
Yeah, you could have.
But it immediately feels dangerous. Like, it's weird when Laird talks about how he never saw the Shredder as like their arch nemesis, and like people get that perception from the cartoon. He's like, yeah, we brought him back, and then we killed him again, and then I never used him again, and like I never thought twice
about him.
Yeah.
You have a hard time finding that.
Well, this is why people like he's a huge deal.
It's so epic, yeah. It's hard to buy that you never gave him another thought. Not with like my favorite 2-page spread.
Yeah,
maybe of almost anything ever. Like,
yeah, no, it's just
so. This is once again informed the end of that first act of that movie so hard.
This one says to be contained in TMNT 10.
Yeah.
It would be nice if this one said, continued from Leonardo microseries.
Yeah, I should say that. So you can be like, oh, I should probably go find that thing that was made 4 months ago that I had no idea was connected to this. But what I was going to say is, so moving into this, we continue to do scenes that you'll recognize from the movie if you haven't read this, where this is where the famous fire in the flea market happens.
Yeah, yeah. And we're also going to get a scene that's cool in the movie, but is better here.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite double-page spread.
That's amazing.
I'm trying to get to it.
Shredder's just leaning.
He's just leaning. And there's so much detail going on in that
it's
page.
insane.
It's insane.
It's
great.
Just...
That should be a poster.
I think this is going to sound stupid, I think part of why I love it is the black bars.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like a cinematic moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is Chet in here? I bet you there's a Chet somewhere.
I feel like this would be a really... See, I'm just letting you run point because you're looking at the book. This would be a really easy thing to play Where's Waldo with. Like, you just pick things and you're like, can you
Well, it helps because I read this like a month ago now, so it was just helping me jog my memory.
Can you find this thing? Like, I would have maybe like tried to insert a couple things that couldn't possibly be here, like a piece of a mouse or robot or something, you know, just like in the background. But yeah, like the way he's got his arms crossed and stuff, like this is the reason people remembered the Shredder.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And then
this is amazing.
Like he's just so cool.
If you didn't care about him before,
yeah,
you've done it now.
Yeah,
you know? Like how are we not? How does this not establish him as the arch nemesis?
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
It's amazing. And then Casey Jones showing up is a really good reveal. It's a really good surprise. Like you said, if you hadn't read Raphael, you'd have no idea who you were looking at. Can I talk for a second about Goongala?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a thing with this. You've seen the because I have to kind of rectify something. You've seen the Casey Jones fan film, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that?
I'm pretty sure I did.
Which is a mixed bag. The guy who plays him is really good, but it has a weird ending, and it's Michelangelo instead of Raphael, and he's paper mache, and he doesn't look great. I reviewed that on Superhero Rewind, and there's a song over the credits, and I did not understand this song before because I had never read this. The song over and over again says Goongala Goongala, and it just doesn't stop doing it. And in the rewind, you'll hear me say, "What the heck is Goongala? It's this!" Now, I didn't know when I read this what that meant, and apparently they just took it right out of something. What did they say? What did they say it was? Was it like a Tarzan
Eastman
movie?
says he thinks it's Tarzan because Laird loves Tarzan, and he says no. Tarzan's thing is this. So I think it's still a mystery.
And so the idea is supposed to be Casey Jones is constantly watching TV, and he got it from some TV thing. And it kind of doesn't matter what it is, and it fits him perfectly. If he doesn't keep saying it, it's a shame. Like, that should be his thing.
Yeah.
And as much as I sometimes get irritated with catchphrases, if he had one, that should be his catchphrase.
Well, it's just a catchphrase, like, a battle cry. Like, that should be his battle cry.
That's true, but you got that battle cry that Michelangelo has in 2012 that I get really tired of hearing over and over again. That Bouchard or whatever it is, I forget what it is. I get really sick of that.
Also, with the same Casey Jones page you were talking about before.
Yes.
Wherever it is.
Well, I had my thumb in it, but then you moved it.
This needs to happen more. He needs to wear a hooded cape because it looks awesome.
It looks really good, yeah. Yeah, and it would be cool if like that was just a thing he did where he was hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
And then like he'd take a hood off.
Like maybe it kind of just looks like Moon Knight, but I don't care. Like it looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks really cool, the mask.
Yeah.
But no, that was a really neat reveal, and this is already so epic. Like that's the last thing you expect, but like they really need him right now, because like Leonardo's taken out, so like he's taking the place of the fourth turtle now.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I think the previous issue with Leonardo, that nobody would have known to read probably, is
I'm sure if you were reading this series, you knew about the Mike.
Yeah, you probably did.
We're just harping on that. It seems like a weird choice.
Yeah, it does. It just seems like such a weird choice. Most people at this point have probably just looked at this in trades.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's always in order. But anyway, I think that last issue is also really important for just like establishing camaraderie with these characters and making them feel like a real family, so that you care more about all this.
Yeah.
When the Foot Clan breaks into the shop and wrecks
it's
everything.
amazing how much of this is it just in that movie. Like the floor drops and like...
Yeah, and it feels like it's paced the same way too, where it takes a long time because it needs to.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get... It's not bogged down. You don't get bored with it. You just... because it escalates and there's constant tension. You're like, at some point this whole building is just going to drop. You're just waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
And... You know, isn't it also impressive how much versatility this series had? That we go back up to Mirage and we think of it as a really street level thing. Again, we did a cosmic Triceraton story before, at least space, before all of this.
Yeah.
You know, like they've already gone to space. They've already done time travel. They've done all that stuff before the stuff
and then we go back to
that we
the
think
grounded.
of as a grounded Ninja Turtles.
But isn't it interesting how much bigger this all feels?
Yes, than all of that, because it feels more real, and I think that might be somewhat intentional, or if not, it's a really good happy accident where, there's a lot more personal at stake. So even though there was like the turtles were obviously in immediate danger with the Triceraton story, that felt like a dream compared to this.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just brilliant.
It also feels way more personal.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, it's just brilliant.
And it's Casey's car, right? And it's also Casey's farm?
Yes.
Which has changed in the movie.
It's changed in IDW also.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I didn't know they did the Northampton stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
right after Cityfall. That's where they go after Cityfall.
Oh, that's cool. That makes sense.
So that's where that's where Leonardo, after he's Shredder's Chunin, has to start finding himself again.
Oh, interesting. So what I think is really interesting about the New Hampshire stuff that I never knew until Northampton. Northampton.
Yeah.
I keep saying New Hampshire. Northampton stuff that I never knew until I read this, where they have all the annotations. Is they're like, well, we put Ninja Turtles in New York because that's where you set superhero things.
Yeah, and we talked about that last time.
And we were like, well, no, we talked about it.
I forget. I thought we talked about it on camera, but yeah.
No, because that was something I got right after I read this.
Yeah.
And I read this after the last.
Yeah.
Thing. But that they were like, oh, we thought, like, we put that there because that's where superhero comics happen. You could set them in New York or at least a big city. What if we brought them to where we live? And they put them in saying like where we live, and it works completely. For this issue.
And what's great is, this is, as we're saying, it feels like this is also one of my favorite pages.
Yeah.
You basically have, like, Dream Super Shredder.
Yeah.
And I love April in this issue so much. Like she comes alive here. This could have been the April micro series.
It actually, this really is kind of the April micro series, right?
But anyway,
I love this page too.
If they hadn't had the thought, can we get away with putting Ninja Turtles in our hometown, you would not have this 3-part epic.
You don't think so?
Because that's how they get them there. They have to destroy their world so that they have an excuse to take them here. They would not have even thought to burn that building down if they hadn't thought, let's move them to Northampton. And I didn't know that. I think that's really interesting.
And I also think it's interesting. It kind of feels more realistic and real, and it's going to be.
Yeah, it does.
I think 2 or 3 years, real time, but also because this book moves in real time before they return to New York. It doesn't feel like a superhero thing where like our nemesis beat us and now we have to stop. Like immediately, the first thing we think about is going back and stopping him. They're just surviving,
which of course the movie does have to do in order to have a third act. But
but they're just surviving and then they're just living. Like they're kind of settling it. Like
because this doesn't read like Aftermath like the Northampton stuff in IDW does. Although we do live there for a while too, but
like it just feels like we're just gonna like when something bad happens in your life and you move somewhere to pick up stakes, it's not all building to you going back.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like life has changed for them, and they will eventually go back. And I don't remember like if they're called back or if. Like, it's almost not their problem. Because it's not their problem, really.
It's not their problem, and they haven't, like, dedicated themselves as protectors of the city or anything like that. Like, they're just trying to survive, and they're gonna do... It's gonna be easier for them to not be seen, since they need to not be out in public where people can tell what they are if they're in this tiny little town somewhere in like, nowhere still.
Yep. The art in this issue is just gorgeous.
It actually makes a lot of sense for them to be there. However, it's hard to imagine... First of all, it's hard to imagine Ninja Turtles without that big city feel, and it's hard to imagine that Ninja Turtles would have gotten as popular as it did if we started them in a small town somewhere.
No, I agree. Obviously. Yeah, you could not have started there.
I don't think you could have started there.
We get a couple more scenes from the film here. Well, the entire... framing device of the issue is basically ported to the movie in April's
she writes the journal there too, yeah. And she's talking about how each turtle is coping, although it's way more interesting in this that part of it, just because we're getting these big revelations about who they are as we're seeing them more vulnerable. Where like they seem, I mean, they're obviously like grittier in this than most of everything adapted after this.
Right.
But before this, you still get the a much more kind of like, you know, goofball, fun-loving vibe off of them, and each of them has kind of a darkness that they show.
And it's
when they're in Northampton.
It's more so than any other issue in thus far. It's really somber.
It's really somber.
Now, part of that...
But I do think the movie did a good job of capturing that, particularly with the drawings.
Yeah.
And with the bathtub scene and...
How that...
Yeah.
Raphael cannot rest. He just sits it like a sentinel.
I still need someone to explain to me why critics at the time were saying that was just a movie for kids and that it wasn't about anything. Yeah. I don't understand that.
But it's... It makes sense how somber it is because their working relationship was falling apart a little bit. It was on the rocks a little bit, but this book is just as good as the first one, I think.
Oh, absolutely, it is. Yeah. My favorite issue so far has got to be the place burning down.
Oh, well, more so than the...
maybe it's the first Northampton. Maybe that's what it is. Because I said that to you the other day, and now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, I think I stand by that. Just because it's the most character-driven thing we've gotten so far, and it really takes its time to allow each of these characters to come alive in a way that they haven't, and to like really to just you know really kind of stop and study them a little bit.
I'm really excited to get to the next volume because one, it's stuff I haven't read,
and I honestly don't know if I care about April until this issue.
That's totally fair. Because next volume is going to be a bunch of stuff where they're ping-ponging back and forth. Like, Eastman does one issue, Laird does a different issue.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get to...
Because they're talking about how they're not working as well together at this point.
Yeah. And then we're going to get to Return to New York, which of all of this, is the thing I'm most excited for us to get to.
Yeah.
Because I want you to see how they brought Shredder back, because it's so crazy.
I can't wait. This also would make a lovely poster.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I think that encapsulates the somber thing you're talking about. Probably best out of this issue. Just a full page spread that's not a big action thing. That's just whichever turtle that is. I don't remember right away. Because I can't tell just looking at them in these.
Yeah.
But just looking out the window, it's lovely. And like something that surprised me about this is because I always think, even back to this stuff, because I haven't read all of it, obviously, that back then Michelangelo wasn't really any more drawn than he is anywhere else, and that's not true. I was really surprised when I got to this page, and April writing in her journal says Michelangelo worries me the most, and I just like a perk up, and I'm like, oh really? Tell me more, you know? Because he's supposed to just be the goofball of the group. Like, that's great. But yeah, and he's the one that foams at the mouth too.
Yeah,
because he just feels so helpless.
And they say something about like he doesn't make jokes anymore, and like he's really out of it. It's really gotten to him.
Yeah. And I doubt that people reading this at the time like really expected it to get that emotional.
Yeah, especially after the stuff. Well, maybe the 2 issues immediately preceding it kind of lead into it, but
yeah, but I just mean
you're not expecting those 3 issues.
Those 3 issues,
yeah.
No, not at all. They in the best way possible. They just blindside you and smack you in the face.
It feels like an event.
Yeah, and it gets completely away from any kind of parody or satire anymore.
Well, and it's so interesting that you basically have 2 issues back to back, or they're basically.
Well, it's still like aping Miller so hard,
yeah,
and that kind of thing. Like, it still is that, but you're like I'm so invested. I'm not really. It doesn't.
It's more
read,
inspired by.
It doesn't read parody-ish at all anymore. But also, I think you can see like a real escalation to that. They earn that.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's interesting that it's 2 issues back to back. They're basically just one nonstop fight scene.
Yeah,
it works completely. It never feels like, okay, like let the fight be over, like.
Yeah, to start telling story.
Yeah.
No, they tell the story through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's delightful. Brilliant, and God, I just can't... Delightful. I can't wait to read more of that.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Okay, Eric, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Aquaman? We'll run through some solo stuff real fast.
I got the New 52 Aquamans. I'm missing the last 2.
Okay.
But I have almost all of them, and I'm going to read through those before I get to the Rebirth stuff. This is Throne of Atlantis, which just kind of blew me away. I'd heard people always talked about, like, this was a really good crossover story, and that, like, the movie really butchered it. I kind of want to go back to the movie, because I was so emotionally invested in the story. I was like, how could they adapt this and it wasn't good? Like, it's so good.
Don't do that.
There's an amazing
the first time.
There's an amazing
How
plot
are you gonna
twist,
feel about it now?
and like,
yeah. Dan adored that. He reviewed it on the channel back when it was coming out.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because, like, I feel like most people remember that first story arc.
Yeah.
But, like, this is where it really shines. Like, I like those first 2 volumes. This volume's amazing.
Well,
like,
a lot of us didn't get that far.
Yeah, yeah.
And that crossed with Justice League, and I think that probably put some people off.
No, and what's great is the Aquaman issues feel like Aquaman issues. The Justice League issues do feel like Justice League issues.
The Snozberries taste like Snozberries.
But it's all one coherent story. It's just, this is really good. This is, of the 3 volumes thus far, this is the best of the 3 John's volumes. I'm like halfway through the 4th volume now. But this is really blew me away. Just, I was expecting it to be good, but like I wasn't expecting to be as invested as I was.
Oh,
I was really
cool.
I was really kind of taken aback. And it's so epic in scale, and like the one thing I will complain about is Aquaman's nebulous continuity as far as New 52 concerns. This is where everyone finds out Atlantis exists.
Uh-huh.
And that's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit in the first 2 volumes, like people like, does Atlantis exist? Is Aquaman just making stuff up? But stuff that's supposed to have happened, that still counts, is that New 52 problem of like what does and doesn't count. It's weird this is the reveal, and this is clearly not the story that he would have told if Rebirth hadn't happened, because I'm pretty sure he was going to do Aquaman regardless. This wouldn't have made sense, and he's such a continuity guy. I can't imagine. But, no,
but
this
see,
is...
that proves how easy it is to give that stuff a pass with the irritating have their cake and eat it too thing they had with 52 when the stories are good.
Yeah.
I just don't care as much
No,
about
and this is a
continuity
great introduction for the
when I care
world
about these
to
characters.
Atlantis.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great story for, like, this is where the world's like, oh, Atlantis does exist.
Which is why you kind of wish they had, I've said it 1,000 times over 7 years or whatever it's been, just start it over.
Yep.
Because you can still tell those stories, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's really good.
I will talk a little bit about Injustice: Gods Among Us Year 1, the complete collection. So I've been wanting to talk about this forever, and I'm going to be real brief. When we do the solo stuff, we theoretically don't take as long as when we're doing our featured book, which is a little bit more thorough. I would like to eventually do this as a featured book with you,
sure,
because I'd love to know what you think of this and your take on this. I'm going to start buying up the rest of these and finally move on to Year 2. I've read Year 1 now like 2.5 times. I read this some digitally right around when it was coming out, and then I think I read some of it at the library once. Like I can't stop looking at this. I really like it, and I finally broke down and bought this, and I'm glad that they're finally putting these out in these complete collections, because for the longest time you could only get them in like little slender volumes, sort of like having to buy seasons that way, which is annoying. And anyway, these are not all done, but they're almost. I think they're up through 3 or 4. I forget, nice. but they're coming out, and they're like $20 a piece on Amazon. So yeah, it's not bad. But anyway, so what I love about Injustice is that Tom Taylor really runs off with himself and just creates a really rich, living and breathing world based on the old DCU, with this horrifying status quo doing a really cool kind of Elseworld story, which is the basis for the video game, but he gets away from the game, and he's obviously thinking about that and some of the matchups and things, and there are places where you're like, okay, that looks like a video game fight, but it feels like he's just using this as an excuse to weirdly get us back to classic DC stuff with the most horrifying status quo imaginable. And I love that, because you gotta remember, this is happening during 52, and we're going back to what the DC universe looked like before that, but ruining it. And it's cool. It's like a physical deconstruction, right? Where he proves what is so great about Superman and what his principles are, and he proves that he understands all of that by making Superman by very organically getting Superman to a place where he becomes the antithesis to everything he stands for. So in he kind of fights modern cynicism with modern cynicism, and it's really cool. It's easy at first glance to just look at this and go, everything's got to be dark. Of course, we've got to make Superman this horrifying anti-hero, and of course we have to play out Superman turning into the evil despot and stuff. But I kind of wish, if BVS had to be what BVS was, I wish it had been this. You know what I mean?
Well, and you've told me before that you wish Tom Taylor got to write Superman, because in writing the opposite of Superman, he so clearly gets Superman.
That's it. Yeah, I wish he did get to write Superman. So what's kind of weird about reading this in trade, I should say, format-wise, this gets weird. It was easier for me because I saw it digitally originally, and I saw what that format looked like, and
it's half pages, right?
It's half pages, and so they're kind of blown up in this to 50 pages. But what's weird about it is there's a whole bunch of real quick scenes that, because it's really large in scope, and we jump around a whole lot, but there's not transitions anywhere between those scenes, so it's kind of just this thing happens, and then this thing happens, and then this thing happens.
Because it's one page that's 2 pages, and when you're reading it online, it would feel like this is one page, and so you don't necessarily need a transition for the second page, but it's one page.
And they're short. And so this is...
So they're 5 to 10 page issues.
Yes.
I see.
And then this is reprinting the way those were collected, and then putting them together like each of those is a chapter, but each of those has 3 chapters in it.
See, it seems to me like once you get to... That makes sense for an issue.
Yeah.
But when you're putting them in this, you'd think you just do okay, it's chapter 1 through 50 or whatever.
Yeah, I might have left the original numbering from the digital, because I don't know that translates really well to trade. But anyway, like I said, I'm not going to get super deep into it, because I want us to do that eventually together.
Yeah.
But I will mention that it's a lot of fun to see a lot of characters that they weren't using right around 52 that you didn't get to see very much, and it's impressive how much fun he has with this and how much banter there is, given how heavy it is. And all the ethical conundrums and the really heavy kind of and the big ideological like I guess like ideological grudge matches with Batman and Superman, because this whole thing really is like BVS the book, but like you get both sides and you see Superman just like gradually really lose himself. It also takes Batman a really long time before he finally basically gives up and says, okay, yeah, Superman is no longer who we thought he was. And that's while Superman has amassed most of the Justice League against Batman already. Like, he holds out a really long time, like hoping against hope that that Superman, that there's enough of him still left. There were a lot of people who seemed really upset, which I was surprised by, because it's kind of an Elseworldsy thing. It's not even in continuity or anything. But I guess just by it was really controversial. Do you remember when it came out?
Yes.
Just like the audacity that someone would have like Superman
murder
pregnant Lois Lane.
And I saw something just the other day where someone was complaining about this. I forget what it was.
Read it in the context of it. It has to be that extreme. To buy that Superman will go as far as he does, because otherwise he's not Superman. I mean, he's the guy who insists on being perfect all the time to set the example, and the deal is Lois Lane so he kills her thinking she's Doomsday.
Yeah, it's like Joker and Scarecrow or something.
Yeah. Joker has put a mind whammy on him and made him think that, and he murders her while she's pregnant, and then that's all a distraction so that Metropolis can get leveled. So all at the same time, so while all that happens, he also loses his entire city. Like it's just everything. So they really
we all remember where we were on that day.
They really make me believe that Superman would completely lose himself and not even think when he, in just the most graphic panel I've probably ever seen with Superman, punches directly through the Joker's chest.
Do they explain how Joker's a playable character?
In the game, if memory serves, it's because it's a bunch of alternate dimensions. Because the video game has a whole multiverse component to it.
Is it our Joker? Is that what it is?
I can't remember. Injustice 2 does have to make up a thing for that.
Okay.
Where Joker is just a figment of Harley Quinn's imagination, or just a dream sequence. In the actual story of that game, the only reason Joker's in it is because there's one cutscene where Harley Quinn dreams the Joker, and then now he's in the game, so you can play him. But in this, I don't think that it's
I think it
like
is the Joker from our world, because I think when Superman, like, there's a point where Superman sees him, and he's... I think there's a thing there.
This is also, by the way, the book that has Lobo in it, and there's a whole thing with Lobo and Harley Quinn, which was a weird thing to match up. And in Harley Quinn and Green Arrow kind of build a really interesting camaraderie in this.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it for now. But like I really fell in love with this as a universe, and as like
when you've always talked really highly of this book,
DC universe. Yeah, and I'm just excited by how much there is, even though I haven't read any more of it. Although I've read bits and pieces of Injustice 2 and really enjoyed that too. There's some pretty good Ra's al Ghul stuff in that.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, so Erica, other things for you. Did you want to talk about Pacific Rim?
Yeah, I'll talk about Pacific Rim.
That's your other thing.
And Alita.
Oh yeah, that didn't make the list here, but I wrote that down somewhere. No, I missed it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, so this is Pacific Rim: Tales from the Drift, which is a miniseries that came out last year before that. It is the second comic book to come out for Pacific Rim. I want to tell you that this is a wonderful, like, little love story that proves how expansive the Pacific Rim universe is, and how many different kinds of stories you could tell in this universe.
But it doesn't do that.
It's a 4-issue miniseries that really wants to be a 6-issue miniseries. It just... Alright, so I'm going to spoil this because I don't think this is that good. The plot of this story is there is a couple who seems like they're on the rocks to me. Like, it doesn't seem like they're exactly getting along, but then whenever we see them talk, it seems like part of their relationship is that they kind of make fun of each other, so it's a little hard to read, but it seems like they're kind of on the outs. But they're pilots together. So, like, they're kind of having arguments while they're fighting a monster. They fight that monster, and there's
Do they have to sync? Because that wouldn't
Yes.
make any sense.
Well, they have to sync, and they, like, have to keep, like, getting back into the right mindset.
Oh, okay. That sounds really dangerous.
Yeah.
Do you buy it? Like, does it work?
Yeah,
Okay,
within
okay,
the story. And there's a radiation leak, and, like, their Jaeger gets super messed up, and there's a radiation leak. And they're pulled back in, they're told, you cannot step in the Jaeger again. If you do, you will both die.
Wow.
So the monster comes back, and they send out another Jaeger, and that Jaeger's not strong enough, and they have no reinforcements, so they go out again, and they die. And they stop the monster. Throughout all of this, you see their relationship develop through their memories in the drift. It's actually well titled Tales from the Drift, because most of the story is in that.
Okay.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
They don't like each other when they first meet, and when you get to the scene where we're told that they, like, finally fell in love, they're like, it's them taking over of their memories, like, and this is when we fell in love, kind of a thing. This should be a story of a couple that's on the rocks, and then through this event, fall back in love, remembering how they fell in love in the first place, and then die together.
Yeah.
And I think you could have done that either A, by making this 6 issues and giving me more time to learn and come to like these characters, or B, don't have them lose, come back, be told they're going to die, and then go back out and fight because you're wasting pages.
Yeah.
Just have it be one fight across 4 issues. Either one of those ways I think could have fixed it. I liked it for its potential. It doesn't exactly pan out.
Doesn't sound like a bad idea.
No, it's a really good idea that I just wish was a little bit better. I wish it was executed a little bit better. So I can't exactly recommend it, but it's okay. It's not as good as it should have been.
I guess I'll really briefly mention Phoenix Resurrection, which I have very little to say about. So
There's a new costume.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
It's a 90s costume, but red instead of human.
It's not, though.
It's a little bit more...
It looks like plastic. Like...
I always thought that was just the lighting. Is that what it, like...
No,
like?
look, it's armor. It's plastic.
Oh, it's armor.
It looks really bad. And when you said that before, where you're like, it's just the 90s costume, but colored better, I'm like, no, it's not. It's got, like...
Okay, but if the 90s costume was colored like that, it would be better.
It would. It looks like an action figure, and I don't get that. But anyway, so, I'll start with what I liked about this, which was simply kind of like a personal anecdotal thing for me. I've been out of X-Men for a while, so I just really enjoyed kind of getting back into the spirit of X-Men, and this is wanting to throw back to classic Claremont stuff really hard because it's, of course, bringing back Jean Grey, and so it was... Tonally, it was fun to kind of get back to, like, the soap opera of, and I thought that, it kind of nailed that stuff. It was... I appreciated getting a sense of what the status quo is currently with X-Men because I have not been in it for a while, and I was avoiding it when it was so intertwined with Inhumans, and we're real back to just X-Men stuff now. And so, like, you know, I didn't realize that Jean Grey was still a vampire. That Jubilee was still a vampire, and I didn't know that, like, Sabretooth is an X-Men now. Is an X-Man now? I didn't know that.
He was on Cullen Bunn's team with Magneto.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, because his team was made up of villains.
So yeah, that was weird. There's certainly, like, way too many characters here, and I don't feel like they need to all be involved, but it's just a big X-Men thing, so they all have to be here.
One?
This one is Rosenberg. I don't know who that is.
Okay. Because the X-Men Red is going to be Tom Taylor, who wrote Injustice.
Yeah,
so.
which I'm planning on looking at. Yeah,
cool.
I guess this is all Rosenberg. I thought this was written by multiple people. But anyway, the art is fine here. It's there's clearly a lot of reverence for this character. They seem to be more excited than I am to see this character come back.
Because she should have stayed dead.
You know what this... Yeah. So, here's what's really frustrating about this. If we have to bring back Jean Grey, and it's almost like I don't know. I feel like for a lot of fans, it's almost like a big slap in the face. Like, this is the thing we know you never wanted, but we're going to make it a 5-issue miniseries. Like, I would have done this in a single one-shot, first of all. This takes way longer than it needs to. A lot of it is pretty pictures before it's any story being told, and it's a lot of just like kind of creepy factor where it's Jean Grey is like being held by the Phoenix in kind of like a hell dimension-y sort of place, but she doesn't know what it really looks like, and the Phoenix is trying to like give her everything she ever wanted, basically, to try to coax her into rejoining with it, and the Phoenix is like resurrected her because she's the perfect host and it really wants to be with her, and I didn't even know the Phoenix could resurrect people.
I didn't
but
either.
Apparently it can, and it resurrects Cyclops at the end, just so that it can kill her and make her really upset, and like it gets really passive aggressive. I guess that's just a big passive aggressive act at the end. But anyway, a lot of it is just trying to the Phoenix is just constantly trying to freak the X-Men and the audience out in wondering what is real and what isn't until we get to the end. And of course, it's kind of just one big plot device in order to bring the character back. And I guess I sort of like the fact that she's already back at the beginning of it, where like we don't have to like. I don't know. You don't have like the big moment where it's like, and finally she's back, and she's just on the last page, and now we move forward. We do that kind of thing a lot when we bring characters back, where it's not really their story.
Yeah, and it's annoying when it's like a whole miniseries about this character coming back, and it's like, I have to read the whole issue before I get to. Yeah, I know they're coming back. That's why I picked up the comic.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, this is wholly skippable because it kind of doesn't matter how it happens. That's the big thing for me. But the other thing is, if we have to bring the original Jean Grey back, can we please get rid of the original X-Men and send them back to their time period?
Yeah.
Like, why are we still doing that?
Yeah, well, that's part of what makes this feel so pointless.
Yeah, it does, and I think it's really awkward. Like, could you do some interesting things with like old Jean Grey and new Jean Grey? Maybe, but I don't care. Like, I just don't really have any interest in.
What's she gonna do? Say,
that.
By the way, this Phoenix thing put me in like a cocoon and sealed me underneath the ocean, and so none of the stuff that happens with the Phoenix actually happened to me, so I was like kind of dead for a little bit, but then I came back, and then I died again. Like, what? By the way, you're gonna die a lot. Like, what? Those are the conversations, right?
And the thing is, they've been around for so long that they're not the characters that they would be if they stayed in their time, if they stayed in the past, and so, they really can't send them back anymore. And I still don't know, and like I haven't been reading X-Men, so maybe they finally explained it. I still don't know how the time stream hasn't been completely screwed up by this.
There was some kind of time block or something.
Is that, yeah, sure. They made up some
That's explained
device,
somewhere in like the first half of Bendis' run, I think. Somewhere there's like, oh, we can't send you back.
But like, the whole point of bringing them forward was so that we could get away with either keeping characters dead we didn't want to bring back, or killing characters people didn't want to see die. So that's how you get away with having a Jean Grey without having Jean Grey, and how you get away with killing Cyclops and you still have a Cyclops. Isn't this really weird? Jean Grey has her own ongoing right now, and we just brought Jean Grey back. Like,
does she?
Like, yeah, she does. There is a Jean Grey book right now.
Aside from X-Men Red?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Young Jean Grey.
Yeah, there's a Young Jean Grey book.
I think that book's getting canceled.
Isn't that weird, though?
I think that's getting canceled.
That this happens while we have that book. And, I don't know, this is completely superfluous, and if you're like, well, yes, of course, Cap, like, you probably expected that, why did you buy it? It's a big X-Men event, like, I shouldn't have, but I guess, I wasn't even really curious about the resurrection, you know what I mean? It's just, it seemed like a good jumping on point, because I haven't been reading X-Men for a while, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to justify myself to you guys, but it was about what I expected. What's really weird about it is, it felt obligatory although I will say I kind of like this book better, I guess. It felt like, and it's funny because it's a resurrection, it felt like Death of Wolverine all over again. It took longer than it needed to, and we all know how it's gonna end, and
it's on the cover.
Yeah. I wish, and I always say this, I wish things like this could come out and surprise us.
Yeah.
And they just can't. But I feel like bringing a character back, you should be able to get away with that more than killing one, don't you?
Yeah.
Where you can just be like, and then the big reveal is, oh my god, Jean Grey's back. Like, we would all roll our eyes. And the other thing that was really weird about this is AVX, 12 issues, really big deal that the Phoenix Force is coming back. Like, everybody's losing their minds, and like the whole fate versus free will thing, and the question of like, is it Rachel Summers in that, or who is it?
I think it's Hope.
Is it Hope in that? Yeah, that's what it is. Even though every X-Man is involved here, and we're talking about how big of a deal this is, it doesn't feel as weighty, that weighty, like it did in AVX.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's just because, like, I know what's going to happen at the end of this, and that the Phoenix Force isn't really going to take anybody over. I don't know if that's what it is, but, like, there's just something about it where I don't, like, the stakes are just not there. Anyway, so, yeah, that's about like you probably expected. I was going to talk Tom King Batman. I left those books upstairs, and we've been talking a long time. We have a lot of other things to do on the omnibus, so I'm going to table it for next time.
Okay.
And there should be another issue or two out by then. But War, Jokes, and Riddles was great. I think maybe what we should try to do is maybe try to make that the feature book for next time. We can both read it.
War, Jokes, and Riddles?
Yeah.
Okay, I have the first 3 trades. I'm going to try and burn through those before I do War, Jokes. I just want to refamiliarize myself with.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a flashback story, so...
Or we could, yeah, I mean, you don't really... Well, it is, but it's Batman telling Catwoman the story in present.
Yeah, that's true.
So it actually does inform the present.
You're right.
That's actually what I like about it over the one Snyder did, is that it really informs present day. We'll talk about it. We'll do the business stuff after we're shooting. But I don't know. Maybe we should go back to the beginning and like catch up on reviews, because
I'd like to do. I think we could do the first 3 arcs as one thing, because they are kind of one story and they read fast.
They do, yeah.
So
and
we might be able to get away.
Like
those are really one story across 18 issues.
Sure.
We might be able to get away with doing that.
Yeah, we'll noodle it, but I would like to talk about that stuff soon. I will just say...
And you have them in issues, and I have them in trade now, so we can do it easily.
So, spoiler alert, I will say this real quick, because I really wanted to talk about this.
Sure.
Spoiler alert, we know, that you know, of course, that that Bruce Wayne pops the question to Selena Kyle.
Yes.
And they tell, or Superman finds out about it, and he's not real pleased, and he's concerned about Batman like marrying a criminal, and that seems like a really bad idea. And Lois Lane, and I never thought about this, has never met Catwoman.
Oh,
and
interesting.
They have an issue, and then there's an issue where, okay, so the previous issue all the way through it, Bruce and Clark are talking to their significant others about how they're not as good or worthy of their counterparts. That I wish I could be as good as Superman, and I wish I could be as good as Batman, and they both think that they're better, that the other is the better man than them, and then and it's really sweet. And then the next issue they have a double date, and it's the greatest thing ever.
CJ's been talking that issue up. I've heard it's really good.
The greatest thing. And like, you'd think it would be kind of boring, because there's not a there's not a villain, there's not a big threat, there's not a huge conflict. It is all this fascinating comparison contrast of all 4 of those characters. You wouldn't think Lois and Catwoman would be interesting to contrast. It is. It's great. I laughed out loud at the library and looked around and made sure that wasn't bothering anyone, because I was in a library. They go to a carnival, and have you heard about this?
I don't think so.
They go for this double date. They go to a carnival, and they're about to walk in, and they won't let them in because it's a superhero themed carnival, and they have to look like superheroes.
Oh, I have heard about this.
And
yes.
They Superman and Lois really want to go in because everybody's really hungry, and Bruce just keeps saying no, like, we're not doing this. And they finally convince him, and in order to not arouse suspicion, instead of wearing their costumes, they switch costumes. They all switch costumes. And
what does Catwoman wear?
Catwoman wears Lois's dress, and there's some excuse where they're able to get by, and they call her something. They make up a superhero name. It's great, but this is the funniest thing I've read in a comic in a really long time, and it becomes a running gag. Like, they call back to it, where while they're suiting up, Clark says, and this issue is really weird, because I'm jumping ahead, but I gotta say this. This issue is really weird because as it goes along, I have to keep reminding myself that the guy wearing the bat suit is Superman. You know, and they're like psychoanalyzing each other, and not, I mean not really that, but just like, you know, a lot of like talking out their problems, and like Batman really opens up to Superman, and it's great. But anyway, but they're suiting up, and Clark says the S stands for hope, and Bruce says the bat stands for a bat. And I lost it. It was the best. Anyway, I'll talk some more about that next time. Everybody, thanks so as always.
Yeah,
sure. I'm sorry, I forgot all about that because it's not on my list.
It's not on your list.
Sorry, we're not done yet. I'm sorry.
So, because the movie's coming out, they're finally reprinting Battle Angel Alita in these nice hardcovers that collect 2 volumes at a time. So I think it'll end up being 5. Because it's 9 total. 2 at a time will be like 5 or 6. That's weird. So, years and years and years ago, I heard that James Cameron wanted to make a movie called Battle Angel Alita based on this manga called Battle Angel Alita. So I went and bought it. And I really liked it. But for some reason I never bought more, and then they went out of print. Maybe that's why I didn't buy more. And they've been out of print for years. And I've, like, once every couple of months, I checked. Like, I would always keep checking to see if they'd ever put them back in print. Because there's a sequel series that stayed in print this whole time. They're finally reprinting Battle Angel Alita. So this is Volume 1 and Volume 2. I'd never read Volume 2. So half of this book was all new to me. I was surprised how much of the first half I remembered, like, completely.
Oh, wow.
I totally get why I love this as a teenager. This is, like, just hyper violent. Super violent. Like, Fist of the North Star violent. Like, really violent. In just a reckless, does not care kind of a way. There's a point where the first villain drinks the brain fluids of people because he's in constant pain. It's the only thing that can keep him from, like, being in constant pain. And he just rips the top of people's heads off and just drinks them.
That's horrifying.
So violent. It's the anime / manga thing of, like, it's a little philosophizing-y. Everyone kind of talks a little philosophy-y, and we jump to things a little quickly, specifically love. People are immediately in love. There's even a point where someone's like, I think this person might be in love with Alita, and I'm like, well, that's crazy. Because it's the guy that drinks brain fluid. Like, the guy's like, oh, maybe he's obsessed with Alita because of, like, these reasons. And we never touch back on that. Like, I don't know what that was about. It's really fun. It's not the greatest thing I've ever read. I don't want to super oversell it, but, like, it's a really interesting world. It's a fun kind of cyberpunky thing. The action is really well drawn and really, like, you know, you can follow it really well. I really like it. I'm gonna keep reading this. Nothing, like, huge plot wise happens in this. In that, like, I want to, like, sell it on the plot. Like,
yeah,
there's some really good character stuff in here. And some of the artwork is just gorgeous. Yeah, I recommend this. If you're at all interested in the film, I would check this out because it's really good. And it looks like all of these will release before the film is actually out. So I'm hoping to get to have read the whole series before the film drops.
That's nice.
Yeah, so I really liked it. Apparently next volume there's going to be a tournament arc, and those are my favorites, so I'm excited.
Well, folks, thanks again. You have anything else?
No, I'm good.
Thanks again for watching the Comic Vault. We sure appreciate it. If you are just watching this as its own video, leave your comments. Let us know what you thought about any of the stuff if you read it. And we are gonna, like I said, we may try to do some Tom King Batman next time. We're gonna keep going with Ninja Turtles soon as well. So we'll figure out which of those we're gonna do next time. Yeah. There's probably gonna be some either alternating of Batman and Turtles, or we might try to squeeze. I don't think we can do both of those things. I think that's a really bad idea. But
if we did both of those things, whatever else we read, we would have to be like 3 sentences.
Or we just wouldn't
160 characters max.
Else. Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll go back to the old Twitter style.
Yeah,
and we'll just have network characters. Anyway, thanks again, folks. We sure appreciate it.